Hello again, XDA Developer TV. Today we're going to be taking a look at the LG G3. Thanks to our friends over at GSM Nation for sending out this device for review. To pick up one of your own, check out the link in the video description. The G3 is LG's flagship device for 2014, and as the successor to the moderately popular LG G2 from last year, you can see there are a few marked improvements over it. The screen is larger, 5.5 inches versus 5.2 inches on the previous model. It's a 2K display, where this was the 1080p display. The CPU is somewhat faster, having been upgraded from the Snapdragon 800 to the 801. The 32GB variant of the G3 comes with more RAM, having been upgraded to 3 gigs as well. It's even got a removable back and battery, so you can easily swap out for a new battery if you need some extra juice, and as well as having a micro SD card slot under there. The camera, even though it's using the same sensor as the G2, has been upgraded to allow 4K video capture as well as 120 frames per second video at 720p. Although all of that has been backported to work on the G2. And just sort of to throw that out there, since I was using the South Korean G3, this one's got a really interesting little digital TV antenna that's not entirely useful here in the States. Anyway, moving on to the actual review of the device. I've been using this thing for just about 2 weeks now, and it does work just fine on the US LTE frequencies. And honestly, it's definitely not bad. I know that's not really what you want to hear somebody say about a flagship device, but when you compare it to the G2, which has been my daily driver on and off over the last 8 months or so, it's really not that huge of a difference for me. With the updated UI design that comes with the G3, there are quite a few new animations that seem to be slowing the device down more than a little bit. Perhaps that has to do with driving that 2K display all the time, not really sure. It could also have to do with the massive amounts of bloatware that came on the South Korean G3. I honestly don't know. Put it side by side with the G2 though, and it's surprising how little difference there is in terms of everyday usage. Probably a good time to put the G3 on its own though. In terms of actual performance, the G3 has no real issues other than that bit of sluggishness I mentioned earlier with regard to the animations and things like that. Benchmarks, which I know they aren't really a hugely useful tool, they still merit mentioning. They show that the G3 is near the top of the heap. Definitely not at the top, but it's pretty close. But I almost feel like we've reached a point with these devices where the software and the apps aren't really taking advantage of all the power that we've got with these new devices. I am okay with this. It gives us room to grow. Now, as far as device storage, I think it's a bit silly that there is a 16GB version available, but whatever. I've been working with a 32GB version, never had to worry about space or anything, especially with those 4K video files. If you do a lot of that, you're going to run out of space. But of course, the beauty of the G3 is it does have that removable back, so if you run out of space, pop in a micro SD card and you're good to go again. Moving on to battery life, since we had the back off anyway, right? I'd say was not hugely impressed. It has a 3000 mAh battery just like the G2, and on the G2, I was regularly going a day or more on battery without having to worry about charging every single day. With the G3, I regularly found myself having to either switch batteries sometime early in the evening, or taking the battery out and swapping it with the one that had been on the charger. I have seen several devices in the past that will last several days on a charge under medium to heavy load, usually 2 to 3. I know TK did a review of the Xperia Z2 recently, and it was capable of a lot more. But, you know, with this, for me, it doesn't matter so much if you have to do it every single day, if you have to charge every night, but still, it does kind of suck. But that said, again, you can always remove the battery in this, which you can't say for most other devices, so that's sort of a give and take there. And this one in particular actually came with a spare battery, and I don't think any of the other ones do, as well as this interesting little dock battery charger thing, which very, very cool stuff there. So I don't think that comes with the stock ones that you'll see, but still, it was really nice for me to have that. Now next up, the camera. The sensor in this one, as I mentioned before, is the same one as the G2, but it has updated software that brings in the 4K video with 120 frames per second, 720 video. But unfortunately, the camera software has now become a lot more sluggish, and the interface just isn't that great. It's not that easy to use. On the bright side, in good lighting, the images this thing made were quite nice. But as you might expect, in lower lighting and indoors and later in the evenings, things like that, it just went grainy and blurry and not great, mushy. Video is pretty much the same in terms of lighting, but one thing to mention though, when you try to upload a video to YouTube that's 4K from the device, even if it looks beautiful on your home computer, it doesn't really like the codec so much, so it kind of mushes it up and makes it look horrible, especially all the shadows. So it might be worth trying to convert it to something different, a different codec before you upload it. You can always see a sample of the 4K video that I uploaded in the post over on the XDA site. And one last thing to mention, development on the device. Since this is a review on XDA, right? There are several ways to root the device at this point, which is absolutely awesome. Speaking of which, I'm actually going to have another video coming out in a few days showing you one of those methods, so be on the lookout for that. There are also a few exposed mods and an awesome camera mod to add higher bit rates and all sorts of other awesome camera functionality to the G3. And there's even a custom ROM in the works to remove all of that bloatware. Gotta love that. But anyway, to wrap things up, if I were in the market for a device and I found a good deal on it, I think I would definitely consider the G3. I've been in love with the G2 up until this point. That said, I don't know if I would go to the G3 since I have the G2 at this point because it wouldn't be a huge upgrade. And as it is, I'm not in a hurry to go buying a subsidized device, and the price for an unlocked G3 is a little bit much for me. But if it's not for you, you might be interested in heading on over to that GSM Nation site that I mentioned earlier. Link to that again down in the video description. I also did more of a write-up of this over on XDA if you'd like to read more of my thoughts about the device. But anyway, that's going to be about all from me for today. Remember, if you like this video, hit the like button down below the video, and subscribe to receive our content as soon as it becomes available. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.